Hey everyone, this is Dan, and this is Great Teacher Onizuka by Tohru Fujisawa. I hope I pronounced that right. And again, this is the second part of my series on manga that I read a long time ago, and I'm kind of rereading them to see if I still think the same that I thought of when I first read them. So, the story with GTO is I read this manga, I think senior year of high school or junior year of high school. I can't remember. And I was kind of blown away by it. It also was kind of it was relevant because I was in school, so I was dealing with teachers all the time. And this manga, you know, the subject matter is that this guy Onizuka becoming a teacher. You could tell this is a really old book, borrowed. It's been read a lot, and it's been read a lot for a reason because it's good. So again, the main character of this story is this guy right here, Ekichi Onizuka, right here. I like how his introduction is done that way. Anyway, this genre of manga is technically, I guess you would call it like the slice of life genre. Because there's not really action going on, though action does happen in certain issues of GTO. It's really more of character-driven, interactions between characters, and a lot of comedy and drama is what it is. And it's freaking great. Really enjoyed a lot. So this takes place in Japan. My guess is probably 1980s or something like that. Maybe the 90s when this took place. And the main character is looking for a job, Onizuka, and coming up short because his background is not particularly good. He didn't really come from a good college, which is a big deal in Japan. He also doesn't have a very good background. I like the facial expressions in this manga. They're really, really good. You look at them and they're freaking hilarious half the time. So yeah, he used to be a part of a biker gang, and now he's trying to get a real job, and it's not working out so well for him trying to find a real job. So a bunch of other small stuff happens, and a bunch of other laughs and comedy sketches, and you get he has a habit where he's looking perving on some girls. He runs into this one girl, and which is kind of a common thing in these type of slice of life mangas, especially for those aimed more at men. Is kind of the guy kind of trying to impress the girl and failing pretty miserably at it by lying. He manages to kind of run the lie very long until he finds out the big twist. She's really let me get over to this one right here. She's really in love with this loser right here, who is a teacher, and that pretty much drives the plot forward for Onizuka and his career of choice coming out of college, and that is he wants to be a teacher. So there's not really a whole lot to tell. It's all these really small stories and plot lines, and a lot of it kind of explores just human relationships and a lot of just culture and cultural issues within Japan at that time, though some of them are relevant to people even outside of Japan. I read through this really, really fast, despite the pretty heavy, wordy sections. One thing I will say, which is a problem I have with manga, is that there are a lot of times in manga where they will not use tails in their word bubbles or lettering. So it can be very difficult to figure out who exactly is talking at the time. And GTO is probably one of the worst ones for it. There's a lot of really small lettering and word bubbles going on in the background. And of course, manga being in this microscopic format, it gets a little difficult to figure out who's talking to what in there, or who's talking to who, and who's the character talking at the time that this is going on. And small complaint, but not a big deal. Just something I've noticed. There are more and more manga. I remember reading a lot of manga that always had this issue, and you just had to kind of infer what the hell was going on. And sometimes I wonder maybe that's just a Japanese language thing that you have that maybe within the way the Japanese is written in the word bubbles in the original manga, perhaps it's easier to understand from inference who's talking. But in the case of when it gets translated to English, it's a lot more difficult. Yeah, so real quick then, I didn't want to spend too much time. It doesn't really have a lot of action or really have like a big message for this first volume. It's just a lot of fun, hilarious banter and comedy. A lot of also just typical manga perviness, which is the norm for these type of slice of life books, especially those written for men, which this one definitely is. What do I think of it? I still like it. Now, I think when I was in school, I really, really liked it. I thought it was like the best thing ever. But I think maybe I was kind of thinking so much since I was in high school, about teachers that I ran into and how much I would have liked to have a teacher like this. I look back on it now; it's still very, very good, but more as like a comedy, something that you can read and just have a really good laugh at. And kind of makes me sad because I think like stories like these could be adapted to comics effectively, but you wouldn't have anybody to buy them because culturally in Japan, I think it is it's acceptable to buy comic books whose subject matter is this. Whereas I think in the West and America, I think it's probably more acceptable that you bought like a novel or a book that was like this, something that you'd buy at like an airport for a good laugh or something. But anyway, I'm going to end this review. This is good. Go buy it if you see it as a cheap copy and you wanted more of that classic manga slice of life. If you've never read this and you're into manga, you should definitely check it out. It's really, really good. So yeah, hit the like button and the subscribe button if you like this video. Hit the bell for notifications and drop a comment down below if you have anything to say about Great Teacher Onizuka. And I will see you next time.